although we had some testimony that, this ballistics testimony hasn't been the most titillating stuff, this testimony from these teachers, from these school employees, has been really compelling. Of course, we started the day with the testimony from Stephanie Hale, and there was this whole issue that arose about her having, this difference in her testimony from what she originally told the Texas Ranger to what she testified in court, and then ultimately the judge struck her testimony, and then of course told her that it was nothing, not her fault. This was really largely on the prosecutor's office for not disclosed this to the defense. But then we had this afternoon, these two teachers that we had, the one that was describing, telling the kids that she loved them and that she was worried that was going to be the last thing they were going to hear, and that she had gotten, that he shot through the window and she'd gotten hit by shrapnel and she had a hole in her shirt. And then of course we have the other teacher who described seeing the man out the window and making the 911 call and getting a text from another teacher who had been injured. So quite a momentous day of testimony. Stephanie, where do you think this is headed?
I mean, I think the theory that we had previously discussed before about just trying to lay the groundwork that here are all these other people who were affected by that, essentially victims, who in this horrible hour of despair and death and destruction still went above and beyond to try to protect the children. The main thing on their mind was the protection of the children. And I think that they're going to draw, like you said, they're going to try to draw a comparison, saying here's a person that has way more training, law enforcement officer, supposedly way more skilled, and who didn't even come close to exhibiting the bravery and taking the affirmative steps that he could have taken to implement, a safety plan for these kids.
Well, when I heard these teachers, I just couldn't help but think the heroism. They really were heroic, and the lengths that they went through to try to calm these kids and keep them quiet, and just all of this is just heartbreaking.
And to hear it from their testimony, it seemed like it was so second nature.
Right.
It was second nature. I'm sure, and if I remember correctly, all of them are mothers, parents. Like, it was just intuitive. It was just like they were on autopilot. And something that really got to me was the one teacher that said how upset she was going to be heartbroken if her kids thought that she picked her job over them.
Oh, yeah.
That was really.
Yes, that was hard to
really
hear.
Sad.
And then I think it was Deming that said she was worried that she had made a mistake, that she placed the kids in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And you're just like, these teachers are just doing the best they can under these extraordinary...
Without even thinking, just like completely on autopilot doing all of these things. Wow. And so I think you're right. I think they're trying to show that his inaction or whatever he failed to do, why didn't that kick in for him? Why did it kick in for these teachers? Why didn't it kick in for him?
Yeah, that feels like where this is headed. Okay. We have senior crime and justice reporter Rebecca Lopez, who's joining us from Corpus Christi. Rebecca, talk to us about the events of the day.
Well, obviously we heard from all of those teachers, and we heard a lot from some of the forensic experts as well. And I was trying to determine why they were going bullet by bullet. But one of the things that I noticed they kept talking about was that the bullet casings were all coming from an AR-15. I'm going to move around here because I'm afraid I'm getting one of the jurors. So yes, they kept coming from an AR-15 instead of from a gun. Well, the ones that had pistols were obviously going to be the police officers. I think they're also trying to show that no one fired their weapon. Adrian Gonzales didn't try to stop the shooter by firing his weapon. They didn't find any of his bullet casings. They only found those bullet casings from the actual shooter. And they also pointed out, if you guys remember, They kept pointing out the vehicle. There's a vehicle also here in the line of where we found these casings. Well, that vehicle was Adrian Gonzales's vehicle. They're like, well, why couldn't he see them? Why couldn't he see the shooter? But that's his defense. His defense is, I didn't stop him because it wasn't that I was that it was a cowardly act. I just didn't see him. I didn't stop him because I went from the other side of the building. So we'll see how much that comes into play as we continue to listen to testimony throughout this trial.
Well, and I found that the testimony from these teachers this afternoon to be just really compelling and heartbreaking to hear their accounts of how they tried to protect these kids.
Yeah, I think that these teachers were just asked to do some of the most heroic things, and that they all acted with so much, just without fear. One of the saddest things that I heard was when the teacher said that a little boy in her class wanted to protect her. And so he came and he laid on top of her to protect her. I mean, the fact that these students were also showing so much courage in the face of all this terror was truly heart-wrenching. And I will tell you also that 911 call this morning that we heard from the staffer, that she was one of the first ones to call. She saw the gunman coming. That's when everyone in the courtroom was really teary-eyed and very upset. That brought the family to tears. It brought pretty much everyone to tears because you could hear the anguish and how much this has had an impact on her life. And that she says, it still haunts me today. All of this still haunts me because, they have to.
I think we might have lost Rebecca. Well, this is one of the technical difficulties of having doing this remotely like this. Rebecca is down in Corpus Christi, and she's been, of course, joining us in the mornings and in the afternoons. She's been doing an incredible job covering this trial from Corpus Christi, and so I'm not sure if we're waiting for Rebecca to come back, but in the meantime, I'm gonna wrap us up. Again, we've had a really momentous day. We had the testimony from the teacher that was thrown out over issues related to prosecutors not turning exculpatory evidence. It's evidence that should have been turned over to the prosecution. And then we had this amazing, and compelling testimony from these other teachers describing how they protected these children. One of them making a 911 call after seeing the gunman. One of them having gotten, struck by shrapnel, and these descriptions of these kids. This one kid that trying to comfort the teacher. I mean, it's just amazing and difficult to listen to. And I think as we go in the coming days, we'll get a better sense of where the prosecution is heading and what the purpose was for the ballistics testimony. But it does feel like, and I think Stephanie agrees, that the part of the purpose of the testimony from these teachers is to show their bravery in the face of what was happening, and then I think eventually what they're going to try to show is the inaction of Adrian Gonzales. So we will be back with you tomorrow morning.